Should we be concerned about China's progress in space? Which space book story desperately needs a movie adaptation? And in Q&A Plus, what's my favorite scientifically accurate movie? Answering all these questions and more in this question show. It's time for the question show. Your questions, my answers, as always, wherever you are across my channel. If a question pops in your brain, just write it down. I'll gather them up and I will answer them here. All right, let's get into the questions. Too evil to hope. Are we concerned about China in space and on the moon? Well, the first question is, who's we? So, I'm Canadian. So, Canada has its own complicated security, competition, trade alliance arrangement with China. And we also have a complicated relationship with the United States. So I think, at the time that you're asking this question, the answer to this question is slightly different than the answer that I would have given you a month ago or a year ago. But I think right now, China is catching up very rapidly to other spacefaring nations. They have already launched a space station. By the end of the 2030s, they will probably be the only nation with a space station in low Earth orbit. They are launching a series of sample return missions from the moon. They're up to Chang'e 5. They've been 5 missions to the moon. Several of them have been sample return missions. They're planning Chang'e 6, Chang'e 7, Chang'e 8. The Chang'e 8 is going to be in situ resource utilization, where they're going to be scooping up regolith from the surface of the moon, and they're going to be 3D printing various parts and stuff that would then be useful to future explorers. Test out that technology works. And they are planning to send humans to the moon by 2030, and they're in the process of building their hardware. They're building a new version of the Long March rocket that is going to be able to carry lunar lander on one rocket, and they're going to be able to carry the service module, the one that carries the crew, on the other rocket. And the 2 rockets are going to fly to the moon. They're going to dock. The crew are going to get into the descent module, go down to the surface, come back up, and then come home. And this is like a version of the sample return missions that they've already done from the moon. So I'm not sure whether or not the US is going to still move forward with the Artemis program at the time that I'm recording this. The plan is for astronauts from NASA to set foot on the moon in 2027, but we'll see what happens. It's complicated right now. But yeah, so the Chinese are going to do that. And they're hitting their milestones. So I think they're going to hit this milestone, right? 2030. They've got all the pieces are in place. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that they're going to make it. They're also in the process of exploring Mars. They've already sent a rover to the surface of Mars. They are going to be sending a return mission to an asteroid in a couple of years as well. And they are in the process of preparing their Mars sample return mission. They're going to retrieve a sample. They're going to send the mission in 2028. They're going to retrieve the sample by 2031. And they're absolutely going to get a sample back from Mars before NASA does. NASA's probably at this point looking at into the 30s, 2037, 2041, maybe, when they're able to bring back a sample. We don't even know the architecture of the NASA Mars sample return mission. It'll be a better sample return mission. I mean, they're going to get these beautiful samples from Perseverance that Perseverance has been carefully choosing while it's down there on the surface of Mars. While the Chinese mission is going to be like, we land, we grab, we come home with it. Whatever's there, right? A good rock. This one looks good. So China has also laid out their plans for into the 2030s. They're going to then follow on this initial landing with a much more permanent presence. They're going to have a moon base, and they're going to have, eventually it's going to be permanently staffed. Like right now, their space station is permanently staffed. Then their moon base is going to be permanently staffed. And they are absolutely going to take a crack at Mars and try to be the first people to set foot on Mars. Because that's like the last frontier. That's the last big thing that nobody has been able to accomplish. And they will consider that to be a sign of demonstrating their technical prowess, their investment in STEM. So should we be concerned about any of that? And I don't think so, right? Like I think people worry about, should we be concerned if the Chinese have a base on the moon because they're going to be gathering up all the helium-3 and they're going to have this platform that they can shoot nuclear missiles at Earth. That's ridiculous. We don't know how to make fusion work. Maybe ITER will make fusion work sometime in the 2040s, and then commercial fusion reactors are going to be in the 2060s. And that's just regular deuterium fusion reactors, not helium-3, which we don't even know how to make that work. So maybe 50 years down the road, helium-3 reactors will be a thing. And maybe it'll be economical to get your helium-3 from the moon, but it's also probably more economical than to just pull it out of seawater in the medium term. The moon is a terrible place to put a weapons platform. It is 60 Earth radii away, roughly 385,000 kilometers away from us. That if someone wants to begin a nuclear war, they start here on Earth, where they just launch their missiles, and 45 minutes later, the missiles hit their targets. You don't want to wait a week, right? Like, what's the advantage if you launch your weapons at Earth and you then have to wait a week while your enemy counterstrikes you in 45 minutes? So there's no like strategic military purpose to the moon. There's no economic reason to the moon. The thing that people should be, and I shouldn't be worried about, is that, like China, like I think people feel like China is trying to catch up, right? China's trying to be second. They really want to catch up. They want to be first. And there is this gigantic investment in science, technology, engineering, mathematics in China. Massive respect for the people who put in the work to go to a technical school to learn these various technologies and do research. The volume of scientific papers across all disciplines that are being produced by Chinese researchers is just going up and up and up and up and up, because there's a huge amount of investment and a huge amount of kind of like cultural appreciation for science coming out of China. And that is gobbling up the world. So you should be worried about the Chinese success in space exploration, because it is a symbol of their success across all of the scientific disciplines and a sort of lack of respect for science that is happening in other nations. That you're seeing a decline of a trust in science, that you're seeing people who are turning their back on the things that are trying to make their lives better. And this sort of conspiracy thinking that is going on, that is not present in other nations. So no, you shouldn't be worried about it, knowing that there's a Chinese space station floating overhead, knowing that there's a base on the moon, created by a communist country that is a rival to the ones that we live in. No, you should be worried because we in the West are not putting in the work to stay apace with the level of scientific discovery that's happening in other nations. And eventually, inexorably, we're going to feel it in the way that we, just this week, Wall Street had this freak out because a Chinese large language model for a fraction of the price was able to do the equivalent of what the top tier multi-billion-dollar models were able to do. And none of that is entirely true. But, that's the kind of wake up call that you get, that you buy Chinese drones because they're the high quality ones. Right? They're the good ones, are the Chinese drones. That's the kind of thing. And, one day we will sort of have more and more of this scientific influence is going to come from China. And then you got to decide whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? Is that what you want or what you don't want? But I think to respect the level of dedication and the pace that they are accomplishing, they are speed running through the space exploration milestones, is a mistake. And that you have to look at that and go, wow, that's serious. It's time to shout out all the new $5 patrons and above: Brian Murphy, Connor Brady, Marcus Gelassi, Paul Mitchishin, Chris Lee, Earthrocker42, Ron777, Mike Ellis, Andre Apanasic, and Mansari. Join the club at patreon.com/universe today. Mr. Mann, I wonder if China's science seems to lag behind because of less cultural freedom to explore new ideas. Yeah, I'm not an expert in this kind of thing. I've been learning Chinese for like 4 years now, and people ask me like, "Are you ready to conduct interviews?" I'm like, absolutely not. My ability to understand it, speak it, is still crap. It's getting better, but still. Part of the reason why I'm having a difficult time is because the media that is available to me to study in Chinese sucks because it's just so bland. So like, Korean dramas are awesome, and, they are challenging, and often protagonists have a terrible ending. We call this the Korean ending. Japanese television, movies, anime is so great. And I wish I was one of the people learning Japanese. Taiwanese stuff is great, but the stuff from mainland China is mostly boring, very bland, very mainstream, and not challenging at all. I don't walk away from going like, oh man, I just was shook. Right. And I think part of this is, the cultural ingenuity in the media is there. And there's places, like people are writing lots of stuff on the internet and stuff, people are writing light novels and things like that, where you can actually get a lot of more interesting ideas. But the stuff that has to go through the censors sucks. And China is missing out on, obviously one of the things they want to do is be able to spread their soft power. They want to be able to spread their cultural influence around the world. And I guess the way they're figured out right now is to use large language models. But they, if they eased off on the censorship and the rigor of how much the hoops that the various content creators have to go through, then they actually could have their version of K-pop, their version of anime. They could have, the science fiction scene in China is really interesting. And there's a lot of authors, a lot of people know like Xixin Liu, and there's other science fiction authors as well, but they're having a hard time breaking out because you read it and you go like, oh, someone with a red line and an opinion about the right way to say things, went to this with a machete. So I wonder if the science seems to lag. I don't think so, because science is science. That, when you do research and you come up with an answer that is based on nature and it can be confirmed by other people, it's not opinion. And so I think that's one of the fields where, if you've come up with a new therapy for dealing with cancer and it works, you don't really have to have a censor doesn't have to look at what you're doing and consider the implications of it. You have demonstrated your scientific ability. But I think they're missing a huge opportunity. If they want cultural soft power, they're going about exactly the wrong way, right? Which is that people love K-pop, people love anime because it's free-ish, or Korean dramas. Alan, Laurie, is there any book or story that you'd like to be turned into a movie that is really shot in space? I mean, I think that's like two separate questions. Like, is there any book or story that I'd like to be turned into a movie? There's so many. There's so many stories that I'm a big fan of that I would love to see given the sci-fi treatment and not actually shot in space. I mean, shooting things in space is just going to make everything really difficult. So I have no opinion about what would be a good movie that would be shot in space. Man, like one of my greatest sadness is for the current superhero domination of media, of movies, of science fiction, is that you're taking these, even like the Star Wars domination, all of the series that come from the Star Wars universe, all the stuff coming out of Disney, like they're just plumbing the same universe for stories, when there are so many amazing science fiction books that have been written by incredible authors that are ideas that are so cool and they could be developed, and yet it just hasn't happened yet. When people are talking about the fifth Bobiverse book, it would be great if there was a Bobiverse series. That would be amazing. It would work really well because they have all of these holograms that are talking to each other. And so I think it would be so good. There's the Revelation Space series, which I'm such a big fan of. There's all of the Ian M. Banks, the Culture series. Like those could be movies right? I'm sure you're all reading tons of books. We get lucky. Like, we have the Expanse series. Like, what a great series. The best science fiction television series ever made, because someone took a chance on a really great science fiction series. The hard work has already been done. Someone has sat down and thought through all of the plots, all the characters, all the events, and the things that happen. All you have to do is adapt it. You have to turn down the next Star Wars miniseries and just pick a science fiction story that is original, that no one's ever heard before. Take a risk. Did you know that you can get the same video with no ads and get a bonus question over on Patreon completely for free? We call it Q&A Plus. And this week's bonus question: what is my favorite scientifically accurate movie? I'll put a link in the show notes. You can watch it right here. All right, those are all the questions we had this episode. Thank you, everyone who put in your questions into the YouTube comments, everybody who joined me during the live show, which was when many of these questions were recorded. Now we're on our hiatus, but we'll be back in about 5 weeks. So I hope you're having a great summer. I'm going to ask you for your help in a second, but first I'd like to thank our patrons. Thanks to Abe Kingston, Andrew Gross, Braley Griffin, Brian Bodie, Carrot Went, Chuck Hawkins, Commander Bailock, Cy Nelson, David Gilton, David Matz, Evan Pro, Greg Feely, Hudson Moore, James Clark, Jeremy Matter, Jim Burke, Jordan Young, Josh Schultz, Marcel Smith, Michael Purcell, Modzo, Paul Roebuck, Ring Kaidu, Robeck, Sean Sargent, Stephen Fowler Munley, Vlad Shiplin, and Wolfgang Klotz, who support us at the Master of the Universe level, and all our patrons. All your support means the universe to us. So I need your help. I am always telling you what media I am consuming, which TV shows, which movies, which books, video games, and I'd love to hear what you guys are watching. So go ahead and put in the comments stuff that you're watching, stuff that you're playing, stuff that you're reading, so that I can check that out as well. And as well as other people in the chat can check it out. So just go ahead, just let us know. Like, are you playing any video games? Are you playing reading any new books? What should we be watching? Most recently, I'm watching, we finished watching Murderbot, which was great. We've watched the first couple of episodes of Foundation, and it's fine. I have a few concerns. The new season of Strange New Worlds has started up, and those are going well. So there's some other science fiction stories that I'm looking forward to in a couple, later on in August, and I'll keep you posted on that. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys are doing. All right, we'll see you next time.